Hi everyone. First of all, welcome to Product School's webinar on Platform PM Unveiled. And I wanted to take this opportunity to discuss details about how data and AI ecosystem in the tech industry works and how the platform product managers are connected with it. My role specifically is on data and AI teams at Bill. And previously, I was with Twitter/X, leading their site stability and infrastructure team. All right, so for today's agenda, I'll cover my journey, my career, how I got here to the product management role. A lot of people ask me about this question because PM role specifically does not have a degree or a professional training associated with it. So PMs have a different journey and background on how they end up in this role. So I thought of discussing this that would help some of the upcoming PMs to understand my background and help them transition to this role. After that, I'll talk a little bit about some of the basics of product manager role, what are the skills required for it, what makes a good PM, etc. And talking specifically about the platform PM role in itself. Then I'll dive into some of the data and AI ecosystem in tech industry, how it's structured, what are the roles and responsibilities of different organizations and people, how are they connected, and how platform PM is kind of a bridge between all these different roles in the data and AI ecosystem. After that, I'll switch and transition to a more technical deep dive in the data journey in the industry, how the data originates from different sources, how it's transformed, aggregated, and loaded into downstream to support the downstream pipeline and use cases, and how different products and different consumers and applications use that data to make use of it. I'll discuss some of the use cases and how it's used in the industry, some of the top use cases, and also finish off my presentation with the hot topic, or you may call it like the thing of the hour right now, the Gen AI and how it's impacted the whole ecosystem. What are the top Gen AI use cases and how it's how it's transforming the PM role as a whole. Let's dive into it. Starting off with my journey, I did my undergrad in India in computer science, moved to Boston right after that to do a master's in computer science at Northeastern University. Did my internship at EMC Corporation during my graduate school at Northeastern. And then right after graduation, I joined Dell Technologies in their data storage division, where I was a full stack developer for their SaaS observability tool for Dell data centers. So we were building like a proactive monitoring tool for the hardware that's in Dell data centers that measured the real-time stats and configurations and performance of those storage devices in the data centers. Our software was used by the storage admins and the infrastructure teams to manage global data centers for enterprise companies. I was there for a few years, and during my time there, Dell acquired EMC Corporation, which was a big storage center player at the time, and we were tasked to integrate the two duplicate tools that existed at Dell and EMC, and that's when I got an opportunity to move into product management. At that time, my manager reached out to me saying that, okay, we want to do this project. There were duplicate set of functionalities which were being offered as a combined portfolio. So we were tasked to integrate these two tools into the newer technology and basically serving both Dell and EMC customers and also the overlapping customers. So I was doing full stack software engineer job at the time, and I put interest to my manager at the time to give me to expand my role so that I have more visibility on how our products are impacting the customers on the ground. So he reached out to me and said if I'm interested, and I was very happy about this opportunity. And I committed 80% of my time to this new product owner role, and also doing software engineering full stack in my day job for like 20-25% of my time. This is when I realized how my interest was more towards the breadth of the product, and how what are the bigger picture of the problem we are solving versus the small tasks about the day-to-day software engineering, which is like more focused on your feature development, some details about technology or tech stack you are in. So this is when I realized that the product management role is more fit for my liking and what I want to achieve in life professionally. And it was a good way to get clarity in thoughts on why I should make a move to product management. So I was lucky early in my career to have got this opportunity that brought clarity. But definitely, I feel that now when I look back, that I like product management more versus software engineering because of the fact I wanted to make a higher impact on our customers and on the whole product life cycle journey, and understanding the actual the what and the why behind the problem, rather than just being focused on the how of the problem as a software engineer. After that, I moved to a bunch of companies in edtech space and adtech space, doing mostly data engineering, data pipeline, ML platform type of product roles, and serving the customers to build a scalable and efficient data ecosystem and ML and AI ecosystem. During my full-time job, I also did an MBA at BU, and most recently, I was with Twitter in their site stability team, responsible for all of the infrastructure and data center operations at the company. My job focused on making sure that the Twitter infrastructure and the platform is up and running, making sure the engineering teams within Twitter have the right processes to deliver the features at high velocity, and making sure that the change management process is adheres to all the privacy and different regulations which social media companies are actually accountable for. Think of Twitter site stability team as like the first line of defense if something goes down, like an ICU for a hospital. And then we got the right people and the teams in the room to make sure that those bugs are resolved, and also maintaining all the data center operations, observability, infrastructure, networking for the platform. My current job at Bill is in the data and AI team, where I'm responsible for all of Bill's data platform and some of the analytics and cross-functional AI features. For those of you who don't know Bill, it's a fintech company responsible for accounts payable, accounts receivable solutions, and also financial operations like financial planning, spend and expense management, targeting mostly small and medium businesses and also accounting firms in their back office financial needs. Last year, we moved around $250 billion through our platform, which is the largest for a non-bank finance company in terms of money movement. So that's my journey in a nutshell. One thing I wanted to highlight that if don't think that you need to have a specific technical background to get into Platform PM. Obviously, it does help if you've had a software engineering background, but I've seen a lot of good Platform PMs who do not have a software engineering background, but they understand technical details. They are up to date with all the technology and advancements happening in Gen AI data and infrastructure. So yeah, it's not a prerequisite, but definitely it helps. All right, moving on to platform product management as a role and as a kind of a ecosystem of different traits and skill sets which are required for a PM. I'll talk about some of the life cycle of product management. There are, on a high level, 4 phases in a PM life cycle. and it depends on the product and the company which you are the PM of, on where you'll spend more time on a particular phase versus the other. For example, if you are building a product from scratch, you might have to go through whole 0 to 1 experience, and definitely spending equal amount of time on all the 4 phases. However, if you join as a PM to more like a mature product, then you are mostly iterating over the features and spending maybe more time on 3 and 4 phase versus the first and second phase on the top right of the slide. So starting off with planning and alignment, this is mostly like the discovery phase where you are researching on competitors, the depth of the problem statement, the what and the why behind the problem, and how it relates to the mission and vision of the company. You are also identifying your user personas who you'll be targeting, creating a plan on how that problem might, addressing that problem will solve impact, create impact for the business. It can be a dollar impact, it can be a growth impact, it can be a cost saving impact, or it can be impact related to some of the regulations which the company has to be compliant for. Coming to the second phase, as you're building this plan, you're talking to a bunch of stakeholders, internal and external, depending on your product, and you have to make sure that they are in alignment with your plan and how you're thinking. Nobody likes surprises, and I would like to explicitly highlight every time to the people who want to break into product management that orchestration, which you can see in this GIF below in the slide, is really, really critical for a PM role. Unless you are managing these moving parts across the organization in a more systematic and rhythmic way, you'll fail at this job. So it's a very important skill to get alignment from everyone. That may include people who are building the product, that may include people who have certain stakes in the product, or they might be direct or indirect users of the product. So you have to get buy-in, inspire them, make sure that you are helping them, enabling them to build it and transform your plan into reality. So that's where the engineering alignment comes in. That's where the executive leadership alignment comes in, etc. Coming on to the third phase, which is the execution phase, where you are building, proposing bunch of possible solutions. And in this phase, you are working closely with your engineering counterparts on building the how, but understanding the pros and cons of each solution and why you're picking one versus the other is very critical. Think of it as a way to execute in a shorter slice and dice manner for your larger end goal of the product. So most of you must have heard about like the Scrum methodology, iterative development. So agile model. So this is where it comes, where you basically setting up the team for failing fast and delivering quick wins along the journey of building the ideal product for the customers. You and your team won't know everything from the beginning. You can do your research, competitor analysis, and have hypotheses and do experimenting in the past, but everything won't work as planned, right? So that's why it's very important to deliver quick wins, have iterative solutions, and get feedback from your customers and stakeholders along the way. This is very critical part of the execution phase. As you are building these phase milestones, you'll collect feedback, and maybe your second phase changes based on the feedback and might be different from what you thought earlier, right? So that's the execution phase. Moving on to the fourth one, measuring and improving. So as you're building the phases and the product and the life cycle of the product, you need to define certain metrics on how you measure success of the product. And defining these metrics is pretty important, because otherwise you won't know when your product is failing and when your product is a success. It's okay to change these metrics along the way, but it's not ideal. So if you learn along the way that, okay, the metrics which we are tracking for the success of the product is not the right one, you can definitely go ahead and change it, but you need to start it from scratch so that the other data which you collected from other metrics is not interfering with the success metrics which you found recently. So measure progress, learn, and get better and iterate over it. Third and fourth phase are tied closely to each other because without metrics, you won't be able to end your phase or call your phase as successful and move on to the next one. So they need to be aligned and coupled tightly. This phased approach of product management and how we deliver things, what PMs do, what others do, is primarily covers platform PMs as well as non-platform PM role as a whole. But product management is quite dependent on the type of product, the type of company you're working for, and how they approach product management. So definitely this can change, but on a high level, companies across the industry follow a similar pattern of product management lifecycle. Moving on to who is a good product manager, as I mentioned in my previous slide, a good PM is the one who orchestrates opinions and facts and translates them into priorities and actions. So some people, as you were talking about the root cause of the problem, how it aligns with the mission vision of the company, you're collecting data along the way or facts, right? So some people who are your stakeholders might be opinionated about their field, about certain things on how they work. You collect that information and then you match it with data, which you're collecting along with your analysts or doing it on your own. And that data and opinions combined together, you translate into priorities. And these priorities need to have a framework on why you prioritize X over Y. It can be based on level of effort. It can be based on time criticality. It can be based on the impact it's delivering, or it can be based on the top level business goals for that quarter or for that physical year. And obviously, without actions, your plan and priorities cannot be delivered. So you have to make an actionable plan so that engineering can pick up, understand the how, do the due diligence on architecture, and then build it. Some of the top skills which a good PM should have is critical thinking, understanding the pain points of your customers, being empathetic with them, of their problem, understanding their point of view on why they are coming from, where they are coming from, and how they reach to that conclusion or hypothesis. So you need to be very involved with them and talk to them a lot, shadow them in their day to day, and also question their hypothesis and judgment or proposal or identification of problems as well, because they might not understand the bigger picture. So you need to fill in that gap to your root, to the customer you're solving the problem for, and help them think in a more broader manner. Influential communication, PMs in a day-to-day basis are part of a lot of meetings, which are like sync discussion. So if you're leading meetings, you need to be very concise about the agenda. You need to make sure you're taking notes. You can use AI to take notes. Make sure that you have a list of action items and the owners associated with those action items, and ensure that you follow up with those things as coming as part of that meeting. Meetings consume a lot of time from a lot of people, which is actual dollar money for the company and a business. So you have to be very mindful as a PM and as a driver of that meeting to ensure that everybody takes something out of that and it translates into something meaningful for the company. Regarding async communications with the global workforce and with pandemic, a lot of remote employees. So you need to be very crisp and concise and also detailed with your async communications, be it on email, Slack, Microsoft Teams, or collaborating on Google Docs or slides, strategy docs, etc. So async communication are a big part of your job in this day and age. So I definitely recommend people to be critical about it and acknowledge that they need to be responded well in time and not wait for any sync communication for that topic of discussion. Curiosity, deep care, high agency, optimism, resilience. These are some of the top traits of good PM should have. If you ask me about what is the most important skill or trait, I would say curiosity. Because unless you are curious, you won't be able to touch on the other traits and skills required for a good PM. Okay, moving on. This question I'm asked a lot of times from people who don't know about product management on what are the different division of responsibility between an engineering manager and a product manager. So some companies have very defined role for EMs and PMs, and it's very clear on their division of roles and responsibilities. But some companies, startups or mid-size, who are still figuring out, they might not have clarity in the roles, and they might have thin line. So this is a very structured approach, which I've tried to capture here. But depending on the company and the maturity and the size of the company, this may differ. Sometimes EM fill in some of the work which PMs are doing, or vice versa. So holistically, I would say, if you ask me for a one line, I think engineering managers are responsible for the how, and the product managers are responsible for the what and why of the problem. There are designers, architects also involved in this what, why, and how, but the accountability and the leadership and the buck stops at the product manager and the engineering manager for it. So the why is solely the responsibility of a PM. The what can be a collaborative effort between engineers, designers, and the PM. How is specifically on engineering and architecture, on how you're building the solution. And the when, which is the timeline, phasing, prioritization, that's with PM and engineering in collaboration based on level of effort and priority. All right, so now we are getting into from the PM role to more on the data and AI ecosystem and how the whole data journey from the starting to the end consumer and the application works. Cool. So there are primarily three pillars in a data ecosystem: the data platform, analytics, and the AI. All these three functionalities and organizations are responsible for different things, but there is a lot of overlap between these three pillars. And to ensure a good product, a good team, a good data team needs to be very holistic in how they are building the product solutions out of it. So all these three pillars need to be in good sync and communication across the company to build a good data, AI, or an analytics product. If there are silos created within these pillars and each of these pillars are doing their own thing, it will eventually lead into a mediocre product. So in good companies, all these three pillars umbrellaed into one single organization with close coordination between PMs and EMs of each of these orgs, and building kind of a joint roadmap for all these three teams. Starting off with data platform, think of them as owning a robust and a scalable platform that enables these two other pillars. They are responsible for owning a data lake, for example, to store, process, and manage big data, ensure that the data is available for downstream consumption, it's secure, it's clean, it's integrated and discoverable. They own the end-to-end data extraction, transformation, and loading. So it's referred as ETL, extract, transform, and load. And data platform serves both internal and external use cases. Coming to data analytics, they own a subset of the data which the data platform owns, and that subset of data is primarily serving analytics and internal use cases for extracting actionable insights for different stakeholders, mostly related to data visualization, reporting, Tableau dashboarding, internal reports for finance, marketing, sales, etc. Data analytics is the customer of data platform because data platform ensures that data analytics have all the subset of data available in their warehouse, which they can use to build these reports. Coming to the third pillar, data science, ML, and AI. It can serve both internal and external use cases, but primarily they're serving external use cases where they're developing ML and AI models to automate processes, enhance predictions, optimize operations, or provide personalization to the users based on how they interact with your product, right? This team is responsible for training of machine learning models, data wrangling, and then productionizing their ML predictions into an application that can be consumed by an application. These teams, their work obviously has changed a lot with the advancement of Gen AI. So they might be either working on traditional ML and also generative AI. So traditional ML meaning training a model, productionizing it, integrating with the applications, etc. Gen AI, obviously, they are using a lot of LLMs, hyper-tuning it, or integrating with other third-party tools which are out in the market to deliver some use case for their customers. This slide covers some of the organizational structure and roles and responsibilities in data ecosystem. As mentioned above, the data platform team is serves the data analytics, and data analytics is a customer of data platform. Data platform has data engineers, DBAs, infra specialists, etc., who are primarily owning the data lake, transform, extract, loading, etc. Data analytics uses structured and clean data, and they have BI engineers, data analysts, governance specialists who are consuming data from the data platform team and making use and surfacing to downstream Tableau dashboarding reporting use cases. And platform PM acts as like a bridge and horizontal scope for these two organizations. Coming to the machine learning and AI ecosystem, there's an AI platform team which is responsible for productionizing the models, which the data scientists and the AI researchers have built, and integrating with the downstream applications. So it's a part like they have an EM, and then they have ML engineers in that team. And then AI researchers are the one who are actually training and building the model and doing data wrangling, cleaning up the data set to ensure that the model has the right training data. And then they have an EM and data scientists and AI researchers in their team. And again, platform PM falls in the breadth of these organizations. Coming to the use cases which companies are utilizing data analytics and AI heavily on. Obviously, these are just 4 use cases, and this list is quite huge. But based on my research, I think these are like the top 4 use cases which are being used across the industry. Personalization and insights being the first one, where different companies, social media, for example, are segmenting users based on their activity frequency on the platform and curating their experience based on their interest, content recommendation, and data insights. So the feed which you see on your Instagram profile can be completely different than what I see. So this is what personalization means. Based on your activity, interest, everything, these companies collect the data and then they show to you what you are interested in. Second, optimization, cost optimization, resource, infrastructure, supply optimization, supply chain. With the current macroeconomic conditions, companies, as you guys must be reading in the news, are more concerned about their operational costs now. So they are leveraging data and AI to increase the efficiency of infrastructure costs, resourcing costs, supply chain costs, etc. So do more with less. That's what the companies are trying to do, and obviously data and AI is helping them a lot to achieve this. Risk and fraud detection, especially in like finance and business, a lot of fraud actors who are doing fraudulent transactions or gaming the system to steal money or impersonating other people and stealing personal information. A lot of risk and fraud detection use cases to identify potential bad actors in any business are being highly is leveraging data and AI a lot, especially banks and financial tech organizations. Data governance and compliance with all the advancements of uh, personalization, personal data, generative AI, governments and regulatory authorities across the globe are creating new laws around it, and the companies and the organizations have to be compliant with those. So, companies have started utilizing tools, data tools, and AI tools to make the governance compliance process more easy to use and democratizing that. Cool. Let's get into more technical stuff on how the data is moving through the pipelines to different stages in the company and its journey and how it's transformed across in every phase and consumed in every phase. Some of this stuff I've talked to you about, like as a part of three different pillars in the data ecosystem. From the left, if you see, that's the data lake is the source of all things that feeds into a data ecosystem for a company. It's the first point of entry to the data ecosystem. So think of it as a warehouse or a lake where all the different data sources are connected, and that data type can be a structured or unstructured or semi-structured data. And it allows a lot of schema flexibility. It's not rigid. Data can be ingested into it without any schema. And the data platform team is responsible for structuring this data or making use of raw data that can serve downstream use cases. And as you can imagine, the scale of this data lake is very high, very huge. So it has to be optimized and scalable so that the infrastructure costs are also kept into check, but also the consumption of this data is easy for downstream teams. Data platform team uses the data from the data lake, transforms, extracts, transforms from various sources, clean it, validate it, and load it into the warehouse, which is a more structured subset of data lake, so that it can be consumed for downstream applications. The loading can be done either in a batch manner, which means it can be done on a regular cadence, like an hourly batch or a daily batch or a weekly batch, depending on use case, or it can be done for like in real time, depending on the use case. So, for example, transaction data needs to be real time. Where a transaction happens, you need to see it in your system right away. So that loading can also happen in a real time use case. Coming to the next part of the data journey is the data warehouse. It's a subset of the lake. It's more structured. The BI engineers, business intelligence engineers, analysts use this subset structured data to optimize for querying, index, build, partitioning, and models on top of it for better performance, so that they can be consumed downstream. The final part of the data journey is the dashboard development, where the source data from the warehouse is picked up and retrieved and then transformed for a more visualized manner, where end users, non-technical users, can interact with the dashboard, get all their data needs fulfilled in form of interactive charts and dashboards. One thing I would like to mention here, that dashboards can also be developed directly from being consumed from the data lake by having some intermediate transformer loading mechanism or a schema in between or a database that helps in powering that dashboard. It doesn't have to be a warehouse that's powering the dashboard. It can be after a direct ETL process, and data can be loaded into the dashboard directly from the lake as well. Moving on, I've talked to you guys about these pillars on and off in my previous slide, so I won't go over in the details, but it will give you a good picture of how the data is analyzed across the different stages in the data journey. What are the use cases for metrics, how it's used for data compliance and governance, and how that data is made available from the source data. So think of these 3-4 different sources being combined, aggregated, transformed, loaded into warehouse. Then warehouse acts as a source data set for this dashboard. And then these compliance and governance tools can be applied on the warehouse, and policies can be enforced using the toolings which are developed by the data platform teams. Data lake versus data warehouse. I've talked about briefly the difference in my previous slides, but this slide goes into slightly detailed manner of the users who are consuming data from the lake versus the warehouse. What type of data is it? Unstructured in the lake, structured in the warehouse. Use cases from the lake can be stream processing, training machine learning models, real-time analytics. For a warehouse, data is mostly used in batch processing, BI or reporting, dashboarding needs. Warehouse is much more smaller than the data lake, and the structure of the data in the warehouse is defined in a particular schema, and on the lake it's undefined or semi-structured, or it can be completely unstructured as well. I won't go into the details of all the tools in the open data ecosystem landscape, but this slide has clearly outlined different vendors in different phases and mapped it to different parts of the data ecosystem and structured them accordingly. For example, for dashboarding and reporting, these are some of the tools. These are some of the streaming tools and technologies available. These are some of the SQL query engines, and these are some of the cloud data lake providers and formats, etc. This slide talks about the data analytics and use cases specific to fintech, but this actually covers a good understanding of how the use case of any data product happens. So think of it like as data producers who are actually generating the data. It can be applications, users, or different products, or third-party data sets which are integrated in your data processing stack. And all these data producers feed into it, and then the data platform and the data ecosystem combines and aggregates that data in this phase so that the downstream applications can make sense of it. So for example, once the processing stack aggregates and transform data, it can be used for finance observability, service observability if a service is down, merchant-facing dashboards, fraud detection, market risk monitoring, etc. These are some of the application use cases for external users, and these are for analytics and internal use cases. Some of it is like for finance team, data analytics teams, and infra team, but also for risk team for their modeling and identifying fraud actors. All right, moving on to Gen AI, the hot topic of the day. As you guys know, the world was introduced to ChatGPT, advanced conversational AI model that uses natural language to engage in a human-like text-based conversation. Think of LLMs as a machine that predicts the next best word based on the data it's been fed. The main power of an LLM lies into how accurately it predicts the next word in the sentence and the scale of the input data set which is being fed into training that large language model. And obviously, due to the large scale of the training data set of these LLMs, efficiency is very important because they are consuming that information of the training data set real time as you're interacting with a chat-like interface and predicting the next word so that it can be formed as like a sentence in a human-like text-based conversational format. Cool. So let's start talking about the top use cases of Gen AI in tech. Different industries and different companies are using Gen AI in different ways. A lot of companies are struggling to monetize Gen AI, except obviously OpenAI and big LLM providers like Mistral, Anthropic, OpenAI, and NVIDIA, of course, who makes GPUs and design chips. But apart from that, other players are trying to use AI to improve efficiency and productivity and not directly monetize from their users. So they're trying to reduce costs internally, their OPEX costs, and also trying to build NPS, Net Promoter Score, or reporting and analytics functionalities for their customers that will help them acquire more users and increase the growth of their product. If you ask me what are the top two use cases that are happening, I would say chat assistant is the biggest one. And then I would say data insights and reporting as the second one. The chat assistant have been prevalent previous to like the introduction of Gen AI as well, but they were not as efficient as the LLM based chat assistant. They were mostly decision tree based or NLP based, where they were doing a good job redirecting to the right live agent queue and not able to do end to end conversation with the users and solve all their problems. So now with the introduction of LLMs, the companies are in a position where these chat assistants can basically help their customers end to end. Data insights and reporting, different companies are using AI, Gen AI to consolidate and summarize information. That can be, I'll give you an example like LinkedIn Premium. If you're a premium user, you can summarize big posts or articles on your feed and in a very short sentence. So that's one of the use cases. Teams are also, companies also building reports and dashboards using LLM OpenAI on consolidating all of their data and basically making them available in a much more smarter way to the users. Obviously, PM role also has evolved with Gen AI, along with software engineering role with all the code generation tools as well as data annotation tools that is helping QA tools, etc. That is helping software engineers and QA engineers to deliver code faster. But for PM specifically, I use in my day-to-day to all the repetitive and mundane tasks like documentation, ideation. It helps with me with my research, competitor research, faster prototyping, and also understanding the nitty-gritties of technical house which the engineering teams are building. A lot of times, a new technology in infrastructure or data space comes in, which I'm not aware of, which my engineering team is using. So I go to the Gen AI, GPT or Mistral and just use them to get more details on how it's different from older technology and keep myself up to date so that I can have a more informed conversation with my engineering team about the work they are doing. With that, I would like to thank you for listening to the webinar and hope you guys learned something from it. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or X. My DMs are always open. And thank you and good luck in your product management journey.